What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to MKE MANIACI, and today we got WrestleMania's 10 times WWE treated their fans like idiots. They tried to insult our intelligence, man. You know, and it's happened a lot of times, man. You know, a lot of times. That's even from the thumbnail, the whole, situation with Mr. Benoit. And then pretty much banishing them from the entire company, man. There's been other times. What was the we're gonna listen to the fans now. You guys are the WWE. We're gonna listen and give you what you want. Yeah, they insult our intelligence, but nonetheless, though, we gonna check out 10 occurrences of that. Let's get it.
The WWE are prone to insulting the intelligence of their fan base. Throughout their decorated history, they've done a number of things that have left fans scratching their heads, as it's been evident that they think the majority of the fans are complete idiots. These things can range from WWE failing to mention established history, or abruptly pretending like someone never existed. Join us now as WrestleMania looks at 10 times WWE treated their fans like complete idiots. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Also check out our new channel, WrestleMania Shorts. Number 10. Erasing Chris Benoit. When it surfaced that the actions of Chris Benoit had led to the death of both Nancy and Daniel Benoit, WWE decided to declare that Benoit wouldn't be mentioned on WWE programming ever again.
Therefore, other than my comments, there will be no mention of Mr. Benoit's name tonight.
I want to say this real quick. I remember the Benoit tragedy like it was yesterday. I remember exactly what I was doing. It was supposed to be a 3-hour Raw that day. This was back before Raw was 3 hours. But I remember I was making a grilled cheese and I saw that happen. They didn't really have any details at the time, but the next day when Vince did this on ECW and he said, like, we're never going to mention Chris Benoit again. I'm like what happened? Like, I still at that time didn't know what happened. But when he said that, I had a feeling that it was something serious. And I just remember it was so hard in 2007 for them to not mention him because he was a part of WrestleMania. The whole Royal Rumble statistic thing, he was a Royal Rumble winner. He was, he created so many moments, but it's like, y'all just don't want to mention him anymore. They took his name off of a lot of stuff. They even, when they replayed back, I think it took a while before they even replayed Randy Orton winning the World Heavyweight Championship at SummerSlam 04 against Benoit, and even then, they would blur out his name on the World Heavyweight Championship. It would just, I don't know, man. It's definitely treating the fans like idiots. I mean, now here we are, all these years later, it's 2023 now, it's a whole new fan base right now. A lot of these fans don't know who Chris Benoit was. They never seen him wrestle, so now, it's like he was never there. But at this time, it was so hard to ignore, the fact that Chris Benoit existed.
Therefore, other than my comments, there will be no mention of Mr. Benoit's name tonight.
Since the summer of 2007, they've gone out of their way to outright erase Benoit from history, as he's never once been named or shown on WWE TV. Iconic moments such as Benoit winning the world title in the main event of WrestleMania 20 are virtually forgotten about, and even when discussing stats such as wrestlers who have won the Royal Rumble from a number 1 position, Benoit is always omitted. If he's been seen or mentioned, then this has usually come down to a mistake, but the mandate related to Benoit remains in full effect. This has split fans. Some believe that WWE should be able to mention Benoit's contributions to the world of pro wrestling, while some fans believe it to be the right move on the part of WWE, and ultimately it's in everyone's best interest that Benoit is never mentioned.
I definitely condemn what he did. He is a piece of shit human being for what he did, no doubt about it. But I feel as far as an entertainment side and what Benoit did for the world of professional wrestling, at least acknowledge him on that. You don't got to talk about him as the person, because him as a person was terrible. He was fighting his own demons. But this is World Wrestling Entertainment, and you gotta, I'm not saying, put him in a Hall of Fame, that way. I don't know. It's hard, but I feel like they should. They don't have to like constantly bring him up like, oh, Chris Benoit, but at least knowledge that he came in at number 1 in the Royal Rumble in '04. At least knowledge, the main event of WrestleMania 20, that moment with Eddie Guerrero, like.
Number 9. That's not the big gold belt. Upon the legendary Ric Flair signing with WWE in the summer of '91, he began to appear on WWE TV with the NWA World title, aka the Big Gold Belt. Upon Flair doing this, Flair's former employee, that being WCW, were absolutely furious, and a lawsuit was issued. Whilst this lawsuit was ongoing, WWE would have Flair use a World Tag title and literally pretend like it was the big gold belt on television. To add to the illusion, WWE would blur the title out whilst on TV, but fans at shows could obviously see that this wasn't the real big gold belt.
That's
funny. It was the WWF Tag Belt. The most notable time WWE did this was at the 1991 Survivor Series event, as Flair paraded the tag title around with conviction as the crowd looked on in utter confusion.
I mean, it said world on it.
Number 8. First time ever? WWE likes to rewrite their own established history. A lot of achievements like to be presented as first time only events, when in reality it's happened before. One of the most infamous times this occurred was in 2014. The main event of the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view saw Seth Rollins take on Dean Ambrose, and the match would begin with Ambrose and Rollins brawling on the top of the cell structure. Michael Cole on commentary, for whatever reason, pretended like a cell match has never started in this manner. Cole would even ask JBL if he remembered a cell match starting with 2 wrestlers fighting at the top of the structure, in which he replied, no. This was insulting to the fans, as even the most casual fan knows of the iconic Mankind vs. Undertaker Hell in a Cell match, which just so happened to begin at the top of the Hell in a Cell. Number 7. It's a miracle. Most fans are fully aware that WWE is scripted, and incidents such as wrestlers being set on fire or even being buried alive aren't real. WWE manages to keep their talent safe. However, when they deliver outlandish storylines of this nature, it's important to try and keep continuity and logic. Throughout the years, for whatever reason, WWE have treated their audience completely incompetently by presenting their talent to magically and mysteriously recover from grave injuries. Take for instance when Randy Orton had a fireball blown into his face in 2021. He'd be forced to wear a mask, as it was stated that Orton had suffered severe burns. However, just a few short weeks later, Orton would appear without the mask, and it was as if he was never burnt in the slightest. Number 6. What is TNA? Whenever former TNA stars join WWE, they've made it their mission to outright refuse to mention their career in the rival company.
Yo, listen, I remember, before the whole AEW versus WWE thing, bro, I had that mindset as a 13-year-old kid when guys like Booker T and Kurt Angle went to TNA. Bro, I would watch TNA because TNA was gold back then, but I would watch it. And they always, any guy that came from WWE, they mentioned, oh, he's a former WWE Tag Team Champ. He's a former WWE Intercontinental Champion. But when it came down to the WWE, even still to this day, I mean, obviously TNA is not as relevant, but like they still, they'll mention New Japan Pro Wrestling. They'll mention, they might even mention Ring of Honor. But bro, they never mention TNA. No matter, even when TNA would take shots. Y'all remember VKM? When they took shots at WWE, WWE still never decided to mention TNA. Even during the DX era, they never mentioned TNA when Triple H and Shawn, rebirthed DX. They even through the shenanigans, they never mentioned them. They only mentioned them, what was it, 2018 with Kurt? That was the only time.
When Sting debuted in 2014, his main storyline was with Triple H, and during this storyline, the game would fail to mention TNA. In fact, he would claim that Sting disappeared when WCW closed down in 2001. From WWE's perspective, they may be reluctant to mention TNA, but mentioning the fact that Sting attained tremendous success in another company isn't exactly going to make the iconic wrestler look bad.
But this is the thing that WWE does, though. You even look at AEW, besides that one slip up by, what was it, Sammy? They don't mention AEW. They don't really mention anybody else. If anything, in their eyes, they're in competition with Monday Night Football. They're not in competition with any other wrestling company, because to be honest, no other wrestling company is touching the WWE as far as revenue and as far as ratings. It is what it is. But,
So it's insanely petty on the part of WWE.
It is though.
When AJ Styles finally signed with WWE in 2016, they had no problem mentioning his history in WCW and New Japan Pro Wrestling,
But not
but his
TNA.
TNA history was for all purposes erased.
He was literally the John Cena of TNA.
However, in 2019, it was brought up briefly in a feud with Randy Orton, and the reaction from the crowd was an indication that fans were fully aware of AJ's history in the rival organization, and it was completely pointless for WWE to ignore it. Number 5. Kevin Nash's bizarre text. The Summer of Punk storyline was completely derailed at the SummerSlam pay-per-view in 2011 when Kevin Nash returned to WWE to attack CM Punk. Nash would later explain that he was ordered to take out Punk via a text message from Triple H. However, this storyline came to a nonsensical conclusion when it was revealed that Nash was the sole individual behind the attack on Punk, meaning that in theory he sent a text to himself. It was bizarre and a clear indication that WWE had zero idea where this storyline was going. Number 4, Vince.
I feel like 2011, that time, I say it started with leading up to Money in the Bank 2011 all the way to the end of the year. They were red hot. You know, yeah, they had a couple of things that didn't make sense, but they were red hot. This whole Triple H thing and the roster walking out on Triple H and everybody, Cody Rhodes was mad at Triple H. Bro, it was money. It was really money. I ain't gonna lie.
Clear indication that WWE had zero idea where this storyline was going. Number 4, Vince McMahon returns.
Oh yeah.
In 2022, the wrestling world was stunned when it was revealed that Vince McMahon had paid a number of individuals a considerable amount of money to keep several affairs under wraps. It was then announced that McMahon would be stepping down from his corporate role and Stephanie McMahon was named the new chairwoman of WWE. But instead of going away quietly, WWE quickly announced that McMahon would be appearing on that week's edition of SmackDown. This was extremely low as WWE were using this terrible situation to grab a ratings boost.
It's all about business though, just like, you know, what happened on SmackDown, them having Triple H come out after that terrible Raw last week. You know, they was like, oh, we could do Triple H coming out, we're going to have everybody think that he's going to say, oh, Vince is gone, but no, the draft is coming.
Even worse was the fact that McMahon appeared on SmackDown and acted like everything was fine, which was a complete insult to every fan watching, as well as the women involved with the scandal. On the next edition of Raw, McMahon would once again appear, this time to introduce John Cena.
But it was always the pettiest of segments though, always. Like honestly, I kind of expected maybe a couple of wise cracks from Vince McMahon. I mean, it probably would have been a little edgy to kind of, you know, I don't really want to poke fun at the situation, but, you know, I was expecting a little more, man. But him just saying they're now forever together, yeah.
Business being on TV at this point in time, and WWE genuinely believed that fans wouldn't be able to work out that they were just after a quick short-term ratings hit. Number 3, the fake Razor Ramon and fake Diesel.
Yeah.
When Scott Hall and Kevin Nash
this
left,
should be number 1 for real. That was ridiculous.
WWE in favor of WCW in 1996, Vince McMahon believed that he could recast their Razor Ramon and Diesel characters. McMahon was of the misguided belief that fans wanted to see the characters that Hall and Nash portrayed rather than them themselves. WWE would use Rick Bogner as a fake Razor Ramon, whilst Glenn Jacobs, aka Kane, would play the fake version of Diesel. This died upon execution though, as nobody believed that this was the real Ramon and Diesel, and even the younger members of WWE fanbase were baffled as to what WWE were actually doing. McMahon at this point in time clearly didn't have a clear grasp on how intelligent the audience was, and this was yet another sign that they needed to change their strategy with their product and aim towards a much more in-the-know demographic. Number 2, get the F out. In May of 2002, WWF would be legally forced to change their name to WWE.
Yeah.
This was because of the lawsuit initiated by the World Wildlife Fund, and WWE simply had no choice but to change their last letter of their name. WWE's idea was to rebrand as World Wrestling Entertainment, and they would inform fans that we're getting the F out and focusing mainly on entertainment. WWE failed to mention that this name change was being forced on them despite the news of the name change dominating the headlines at the time. They believed that the fans didn't deserve to know the true details behind the name change, which wasn't the smartest of moves as 99% of them were fully aware of the ins and outs of the well-documented lawsuit.
Everybody knew. You know, I remember being a kid. How old was I at this time? Like, I was 7? I was 7 years old, going on 8 this year. And I remember when they were doing it, and people were saying it was it was what was it, it was the World Wildlife Fund, but they said it was something about pandas, and I'm like, what do pandas have to do with WWE? But you know, when they did that, I didn't really see a difference in it. You know, obviously they, you know, if anything, I say the production did get better. But yes, they definitely insulted the fans in this. They definitely insulted the fans in this. I feel them, if they would have just, you know, out of nowhere changed it to World Wrestling Entertainment to begin with, you know, on their own terms, then, you know, people really wouldn't. Honestly, you know what? Now I think about it, I don't even think it really mattered at that time. You know, we still had a solid roster. There was Undertaker, Triple H, The Rock, Stone Cold, you know, before he walked out. But it was a lot. Like, we still had a solid roster. We still had solid shows. Like I said, the production just got better. But as far as like the reasoning for getting rid of the F though, yeah, they kind of did try to insult the fans' intelligence, but it was everywhere, man. You know, it was everywhere. Everybody was talking about it. But yeah.
True details behind the name change, which wasn't the smartest of moves, as 99% of them were fully aware of the ins and outs of the well-documented lawsuit. And number 1, the new WWE Champion. WWE had huge plans for Lex Luger. In fact, Vince McMahon was so impressed with Luger that he had initial plans to make him the next Hulk Hogan. After co-winning the Rumble with Bret Hart, WWE would tape an episode of TV which saw Luger steal the WWE title from Jim Cornette and proceed to show up to the ring wearing the WWE title. The idea behind this was to gauge fan interest and see how fans reacted to Luger as champion. But the problem was that Luger hadn't even won the title, so fans were just baffled as to why he was suddenly walking around as if he was now the champion. The fans failed to react at all to Luger with the title because it made no sense, and McMahon executed this idea terribly. Fans were just
Vince was even out of touch back then.
Perplexed as to what was happening, and it was ultimately a terrible way to determine how interested fans are in a specific talent becoming the top guy in the company. When they have it,
Lex Luger, oh, my bad. Lex Luger was probably one of the biggest like what ifs at that time for WWE. Because man, I mean, the guy clearly, you know, he had to build, but I just feel like, you know, I don't think Lex Luger was 100% into it. Maybe because they let him sit on the bus also. I don't know, man. But you know, 10 times Vince McMahon insulted the fans' intelligence though, and treated us like idiots. Link down below in the description for y'all to check the video out in its entirety with no interruptions. And if y'all are new to the channel, man, want more WWE or wrestling related content, hit that subscribe button for me. And until the next video, I will see you then. Thank you for watching. MKE MANIACI. I'm out.